Get the power to do more with storable websites. More marketing, more engagement, more customers moving into your facility. Storable helps operators do more with the most powerful technology in self-storage. Learn more at storable.com/do more.
All right, we're going to go ahead and kick off. So good morning, everybody. So my name is Matthew Beal. I'm a product marketing manager here at Storable, and I've been your host for the 4-webinar imperative webinar series. And I want to start with a quick kind of look into today's content, but also just an overview of where we've been on the webinar series. So as a reminder, 2 weeks ago, we hosted our second conversation on this topic of optimizing your marketing spend. And specifically, we discussed PPC, or pay-per-click advertising, and how you can use it to acquire, highly targeted and relevant leads to your facility. So if you guys missed this and you want to check out our conversation on PPC, or even before that, we did a good one on SEO, you can check it out at blog.storable.com. But today, we're going to be continuing that conversation on optimizing your marketing spend, but specifically, we're going to be discussing listings and reputation management. And as more and more of your customers are shopping online, your digital reputation is one of the best tools that you have to establish credibility with your customers. And I'm excited to be joined by David Hepworth. He's the Director of Sales at Podium. He's very much so uniquely equipped to give us some valuable insight into specifically the reputation management piece of this. But in 2 weeks, we're going to be hosting another operator roundtable to finish out our discussions on the topic of optimizing your marketing spend. And, we've heard from you guys, the people that are attending this webinar, time and time again, that these operator roundtables are the sessions that you guys find to be your favorite. You love to hear kind of how other folks are solving these problems. And so we're going to be exploring some, interesting ways that some of our savvy operators have changed their marketing strategy. One, in the face of COVID-19, but also more importantly, how they're kind of preparing for the future and how they're setting themselves up to be in a position of strength heading out of it. But before we get into today's conversation, we also want to dive into kind of the market forces that led us to this entire webinar series and kind of why you should care about these operator imperatives. So in 2013, 14, and 15, operators in this industry were seeing truly unprecedented, revenue and NOI growth. And naturally, this attracted a lot of developers that were taking advantage of being able to build at that 9 or 10 cap rate and then sell stabilized facilities at a 6 cap rate. And you can kind of see that play out in this construction value put in place chart. But as a result of that, we saw the largest development cycle in the industry's history. So from 2015 really to 2018, we were adding almost 1,000 new builds every single year. But in 2019, again, even before the health crisis, we started to see that consumer demand really wasn't keeping up with the growth in supply. And so operators have kind of had to start figuring out how to be more efficient with both their operations and their marketing efforts. But the health crisis only further accelerated that trend. With that being said, we don't think this is doom and gloom. We just want to share to be, give an honest opinion of kind of where we see the industry at currently and where it's heading. But, the self-storage industry does continue to perform incredibly well relative to other industries right now throughout this health crisis. But again, there are challenges that remain. And so we wanted to create this webinar series that we're calling the 4 operator imperatives to provide you with a framework that helps you combat these market forces and put your position in a business of strength coming out the other side of it. And so each of these imperatives and their respective components, we came to the conclusion of them based off of countless conversations that we've had with our clients, with vendors and subject matter experts in the industry. And they're really at the core of how these folks are approaching optimizing both their operations and marketing performance. So let's take a quick glance at each of these, and then we'll be jumping into today's combo. So first, again, is optimizing your marketing spend. And we've spent, a little bit over 6 weeks at this point discussing this one. And the whole idea behind this imperative is, it's about identifying the most effective marketing vehicles that you can possibly use. And so today's discussion on both listings and reputation management falls squarely into that imperative and frankly kind of concludes most of the subject matter there. But over the next couple of weeks, we're also going to be discussing the other imperatives. And so starting with rethinking the tenant experience, which is all about how do you meet the evolving needs of your consumers, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 health crisis. There's a lot of shifts and changes in the way that folks are shopping for your listings. And so we'll be discussing how you can meet them where they're shopping. We'll also be discussing how you can simplify and automate processes, which is all around ultimately freeing you and your team up to focus on driving value to your business in a variety of other ways, whether that's working for customers or other kinds of things, keeping the facility clean, that kind of thing. And then lastly, it's amplifying your operating revenue. And so this one is all about adding valuable services for your clients, which ultimately also provide you with an ancillary revenue stream that helps you offset some of this, the disparity between consumer demand and again, the rising supply that we've been seeing over the last few years in this industry. But without further ado, I want to get into today's conversation. So again, we're going to be discussing listings and reputation management and how important they are for driving leads for your facility. And before I bring David on the line to walk us through reputation management, I wanted to set a little bit of a groundwork by discussing what listings management is, because ultimately it's kind of the foundation upon which reputation management sits. And when you really boil the ocean, listings management is all about how folks can discover your business online. And if you go back in time only 15 years, before mobile devices in particular really took off, the discovery of your business still heavily relied on physical solutions such as the Yellow Pages. And it just really feels kind of crazy to think about how, it feels that was so long ago. But, nowadays, most folks are using their mobile devices or computers to perform these same, functions or searches. And they're doing it on the go using tools like Google searches. They're using things like Facebook or even built-in experiences on their mobile devices such as Apple Maps. And all of these experiences are ultimately powered by various listing services. So as you might imagine, it's critical that you're using these to be discovered by your customers today. And in fact, 82% of mobile shoppers are using the phrase near me when searching on their phone. And so these type of searches are exactly what the listing services are targeting. And our industry in particular, as we all know, the self-storage industry is incredibly focused on targeting a local audience. We hear a lot about this phrase 3-mile domination. That's kind of where people are thinking about is how do you think about getting all of the customers that, live within 3 miles of your facility? And so a phrase like near me is incredibly important to do that. And so this type of kind of mobile shopping experience is really optimized for us in this industry. But it's also worth noting that COVID-19 has also accelerated this shift towards digital engagement and shopping. And while there are some more subtle, and equally as important benefits of properly, utilizing listings management. So I want to spend some time talking about those as well. And I would say far and away the main benefit of optimizing your listings management strategy is the impact that it has on your SEO or search engine optimization. And so we held a webinar on this about a month ago with Storable's own Charles Needham. And if you're not familiar with it, again, you can go review that webinar at blog.storable.com. But the gist of it as it connects to listings management is, the general goal of SEO is to have your website rank as high as it possibly can in the organic section of Google search results. And one of the main things that Google's looking for when they review your website is to make sure that your business information, like your business name, your address, and your phone number, which is also known as NAP, N-A-P, you'll see that if you do any research into the space, is you want to make sure that information is accurate across all the various websites and listings. And so simply by keeping those listings accurate and up to date, you're going to be rewarded by Google, and they're going to reward you with a potential to rank higher. And in fact, it's also worth noting that the inverse is true, meaning if you have inaccurate business information across your listings, Google's going to ding you for that, and they're going to potentially drag your ranking down. And so it's incredibly important that you are engaged with this. And so as you might imagine, that makes listings management an incredibly important part of your SEO strategy. In addition to that is brand awareness. And so another concept we've been discussing over the last month or so is the idea that the more time your facility appears on the first page of a Google search result, the more likely a customer is going to have the confidence to check out what you're offering. And so this is the one of many ways that you can quantify brand awareness. But think about it this way. If you're appearing in the paid ads section and then the customer scrolls down a little further and they also see you in the Google Map Pack, which again is powered by Google My Business, which is their listings management service. And then they also scroll down a little further and you're also ranked high on the organic search results. You're at a huge advantage against your competitors. And additionally, if you're on one of the main listing management websites or even apps, even if the customer is not searching on Google, there's a really high chance that they're going to find you at one of those locations. And so another interesting stat I just wanted to bring up is Google actually found that 50% of customers who conducted a local search on their mobile phone visited the store within the day. And so again, our industry is so big on those local searches. And so one way or the other, enrolling in these listings management services is going to provide you with, a lot of value to your brand, a lot of exposure. And then lastly, providing an excellent customer experience is really what all of this boils down to. And it's particularly important during the health crisis. So if you're altering your office or your access hours, you're going to want to make sure that that information is accurate across your listings, because if not, you risk having a customer come into your facility when maybe there's nobody there to help them. And there's a pretty good chance, as you might imagine, that they're going to choose to store with one of your competitors. But in addition to that, they might even leave a bad review. And if that is the case, right, you can potentially deter future customers from storing with you. So ultimately, happy customers leads to positive reviews, leads to more referrals, more business, that kind of thing. So it's incredibly important that listings management is a key part of that. And then one more item before I turn it over to David is we wanted to discuss kind of the methods that you have available to you to manage your various listings. And so, look, it's totally possible for you to claim and update all of your local listings on your own. It's not an incredibly difficult thing to do, especially if you only have 1 or 2 locations. But it is worth mentioning that if you have multiple facilities, this process can just get out of hand quickly to constantly be worrying about keeping it up to date and making sure everything is properly, good to go. And so this is especially true, again, if any of your business information changes. So COVID-19, for example, as your hours are changing or, that kind of thing. But, as for how you do it, each listing service handles the process of claiming or creating listings differently. So we would just recommend that you visit each website to learn the nuances, whether it's Google My Business, Facebook, Yelp, something else. But most of them are typically as easily as just creating an account, providing some basic information. And some require a little bit of proof of ownership just to make sure that you're not just somebody that's not associated with the business who could potentially misrepresent that. So. But there are also listing services available to you. And so I wanted to bring that up. So, especially if you don't have the budget or the time to handle your listings management yourself, there's plenty of services and software available to you to help manage that process. And so in addition to the time savings that you get from that, the other important thing to note is, these guys typically will have their finger on the pulse of the industry. So if you do need to make any sort of changes to your listings to attract more customers, they're definitely going to be the first ones to know about it. And they're probably going to do it before you even, necessarily are thinking about it. And so I do want to transition our conversation now over into reputation management, though. So, one key difference between, the Yellow Pages and this new digital environment is for the ability for your customers to interact with your business online, primarily through reviews. That was something that, obviously you couldn't do in a phone book. And so if you really think through the last time that you made a significant purchase, I'd be curious to know, would you have changed your mind if, for example, one of your friends or family member recommended that product or service? Or what if they said it was horrible and they would never recommend it? These type of discussions are being had every single day on these online listing platforms. And this is what we're discussing when we talk about this concept of your online reputation. And so to discuss how that plays out and why it's important to you, I want to welcome David Hepworth, Director of Sales at Podium, to the webinar today. So David, welcome. Would you mind kind of telling us a little bit about yourself and your professional background?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for letting us on. Excited to be here with everybody. Again, like Matt said, I work with the company Podium. I've been with them for about 4 years, and it's been kind of crazy. We had about 60 employees around that time. Today, I think we're almost to the 800 employee count number, and it's been a wild ride. Prior to Podium, though, I had spent about probably 6-7 years working in kind of just internet marketing. I had a couple startup businesses of my own, and everything that I was doing was kind of just the grassroots. How do you get attention? How do you get college students to see what I'm building and then take advantage of what I'm building? And so I spent a lot of time just really figuring out social media, figuring out Google, figuring out viral spreads. How does that social landscape really transfer my information out to them? And so now as I've come over to Podium, it's been really fun to take that experience into really this Google landscape. How do we really now maximize our opportunity on Google, make sure that we're the business that people are essentially clicking towards? And that's essentially what our company does. We want to really provide that most confident and convenient experience for the consumers so that your business essentially is that first choice. You're the one that they're going to call. And it's been a pretty fun ride. But yeah, we're excited to be here. I think reputation management is a very important topic. It's also one that's very easy to dismiss. And so we can probably dive in a little bit and talk about some of the insights about what's going on in the industry today. One of the
Sounds good.
Yeah, one of the first trends that we're kind of seeing lately go on is just this change in consumer confidence. This is a stat that came out early during COVID, and it just talked about kind of this consumer confidence and how it's dramatically dropped. In fact, we reached this 10-week low. anytime there's a drop in consumer confidence, there's typically a drop in consumer spend. We are more conservative with our cash, we're more conservative with our dollars, and we're pickier about where we spend that money. And so this really stems into reputation management for the obvious reason. If I'm going to be pickier, I'm going to be more selective, I'm going to do a little bit more research, and I'm going to dig in a little bit to make sure that I'm not about to waste some money online. And so I think if we transition over here to reputation management as a whole, I think we all understand what it is. But let's just break it down on the simple side. I really like this quote I heard recently. Reputation management means taking control of the online conversation. Really emphasizing that taking control, because like you said, Matt, I mean, people are talking. Word of mouth is what's driven so much sales in the industry for years, decades. That hasn't gone away. And really the business process and the consumer process for finding a facility to store your stuff isn't different than it used to be. We just go through different channels. And this word of mouth really is now online. This online conversation exists about us, whether we like it or not. Reputation management means we're going to be proactive on this and put our foot in and really take control of that. And that was really the inception of Podium as well. Our actual founder, his dad owned a tire shop up in Canada. And this was way back when, but he got blasted with a couple negative reviews online and had no way of really figuring out how to deal with that. And for anybody on this call, you've probably seen that effect if you've had this experience. But he had a poor reputation online, and it dramatically started to cut the sales and revenue that was coming into his tire shop. And so his son kind of started racking his brain and came up with some really simple tools. But the power of really taking advantage of these and taking control over these can do the opposite as well. This isn't just a negative impactor, but this can be a huge positive impactor to drive revenue and sales. Because the truth is, I mean, consumers really do trust these reviews. If they hear about what you're doing and everybody says you're great, that's going to help motivate a lot of revenue. I do want to, though, probably frame this up a little bit. And when we look at kind of reputation management today, I think it's really important to understand where is the internet today. And so obviously, you know, in years past, we lived on a desktop-based computer. We sourced the internet, we viewed the internet at home from our computer in our office. But now we've got these digital little computers in our pockets every single day, and that mobile internet has kind of taken over. You hinted at that, Matt, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your own life, but today, 2017 was the first year in which more than half of all web traffic went mobile. When you're out and about, that's how we shop. Even just last night, I decided to go on a quick walk and wanted to go get some food, and then I decided to wait till I got outside to start looking. Pulled out my phone, restaurants near me, ended up at Panda Express, which I already knew was close by and was a place that I liked. But it was super easy to find right there on my cell phone, and it was just a quick walk over and a place that I hadn't been. We behave differently fundamentally now. It's not just a change in kind of how we're viewing the internet, but the behaviors have happened as well. And that's what we kind of want to help people really focus on. And so for anybody that's listening, unless you're listening on your phone, it might be a little bit more difficult, but pull out your cell phone and look yourself up. I think it's an easy habit we can all do, but look at what your business looks like from a mobile device. And when we look at kind of this new mobile-based internet, it is definitely different than it was even just 3 years ago. Like, we're definitely not in the yellow pages anymore, but we're not even in the Google search results that we were 5 years ago. Today, as you can see kind of here on the screen, like when somebody pulls out their phone and looks for a storage unit near them, there's no metadata as far as like these lengthy descriptions. Like that picture on the left, I'm not seeing that description that says, you know, hey, family owned, we've been in the city for 20 years, we've got the best units. Because the truth is, every one of those businesses say that. We're selling our business. We all try to say that same thing. Google, though, doesn't really care as much about that. And it's not because they don't care, it's because they've noticed consumers don't care. as much as I trust the businesses that I buy from, that only goes so far. I have a better trust and confidence in what their customers say about them than what they say about themselves. And so when we look at now this new mobile internet, it's pictures, it's reviews, it's buttons, things that I can click on, like that listing on the right. I don't see their phone number listed anymore. And that seems bizarre fundamentally, because typically we want to put our number out there so that people call us. But consumers, again, why do I need to know your phone number? I just need to call you. And now it's a button that I can click. And to your point, you know, half of those web traffic visits, they'll come to you within 24 hours. And then another 38% will call you within 24 hours. These are people looking for fast actions. And we really want to kind of make sure that we're capitalizing on this. So reputation management, hopefully you understand the crux of it. It's taking control about what people are saying. How do we then use this to benefit us? That's kind of where we're going with this. How do you optimize this to not just look good, but to increase your lead flow? How do we be proactive in taking advantage of our Google reputation? And this is, again, an area where hopefully you're not dreading this. Hopefully you're not unexcited and unenthused about taking control of your online reputation. Like Matt said, you can typically oftentimes do self-service and, you know, manage your own listings. You can take care of reputation management on your own and take control of these, or there's tools out there that will help you do these things. But the benefit is huge. So first off, today, most people will start online. And even if you're an aggressive company with lots of marketing efforts, billboards, radio, TV, word of mouth, even a lot of that, when we come down to it, if my friend comes over and recommends your company, your facility, I don't just outright call you. I'm still going to the search engine to look you up. And so this isn't just a channel for organic traffic, but this is the main channel for organic traffic as well as most of our marketing traffic. They all funnel today to the same place. But there's a huge opportunity for that organic traffic where they don't know who you are. Somebody types in storage units near me. It's important to realize, though, these results vary quite dramatically. If you drive 5 miles east, 5 miles west, you'll see that happen. This image, I literally just did this search for my cell phone 2 days ago when getting ready for this, because again, I want this to feel live. This is current stuff. This is searched from the exact same location. The only difference is the addition of the word indoor. So on the left, best storage units near me. On the right, best indoor storage units near me. And yet, when you look at the list of names of businesses popping up, there is not a single one on each side. It's completely different set of results. And there's reason to that. There's a lot of reasons to that. We'll try to on the surface level skim across a little bit of it. In fact, I'll come back to this example here in just a second. But when we talk about reviews, I like to break it out into two sides. And really it's the confidence, one, of the consumer, and then two, confidence from Google, kind of that SEO factor. Consumer confidence, I think, is obvious. You know, Matt, on your side, restaurants, movies, books, recipes. I mean, everything on Amazon and retail these days online. Reviews are what we use to decide what we want. I don't remember the last time that I just went to the restaurant that was at the top of the search results. It seems almost barbaric in my mind that if I'm looking for a Mexican restaurant around town, that whoever shows up first is who I'm going to. I'm naturally going to look at my options. And if everybody says that, you know, this place downtown is the number one and everybody's talking about it, that's where I'm going to go. Or at least that's my first phone call. And if they're busy and I can't work with them, I'll call somebody else. And it's going to be the second most attractive. Recency is another huge piece, especially given what's going on. A lot of people today are looking for places that are doing, you know, safety precautions, like this touchless experience, which, you know, the webinar is going to follow up later down the road about kind of providing this convenient consumer experience where we're almost touchless and providing everything for them to have super convenient opportunity. But I'm going to look for that in the reviews. I want to know, are you taking precautions? In fact, if you look at the search result volume for people and businesses displaying their precautions, it's skyrocketed up for obvious reasons over the last few months. This is huge. Consumer confidence, it will win business for you if you win that reputation piece. All of that said, I think that is an incentive, but there is a much more important incentive. And it goes back to that example I showed earlier. But when you look at a single review, it is riddled with information. A single review will have a customer talking about all they're doing with your business, all their experiences with you. And so I've got an example of a review here. This was actually a review left to a customer of mine just last week. You can see the date, July 16th, was listed in the review. But they start talking about the experience. Oh, it was great. I loved working with them. They helped us so much. Great experience overall. I recommend them. Great. That helps me as a customer. But the data that this single review provides to Google is much, much more important in the long run. This helps Google understand your business. When we talk about SEO, it's complicated. And by nature, it is meant to be complicated so that people can't take advantage of it. But for Google, the goal of SEO is very, very simple. They want to recommend good businesses. Because if I, as a consumer, have a good shopping experience online, I will continue to use Google. If I have a poor experience, I'll go try out Yelp or Home Advisor or Angie's List. Google's main goal here is to provide good results and good businesses. So SEO 5 years ago was complicated. Those businesses that have clean websites, those businesses that have people talking about them in blogs, those people that have cleaned up all their data, they're probably on top of it and they're probably better at what they do. But the people that won the game weren't the facilities. It was Home Advisor, Angie's List, Yelp. When I searched for a facility near me, they were always the first results because Home Advisor would say, here are the top 10 facilities in your area. And this was before Google even had reviews. Google saw that traffic leaving their engine, they implemented Google reviews and took a dramatic recontrol over the market. Google reviews tell Google whether you're good or not, but they also tell them everything else about what you do. Indoor units, climate controlled, cooler, best self-storage unit, units, unit lease, riddled with data of what people are searching for. And so if we go and look back at that example from before, when I did that search, best indoor units near me, I actually clicked on the top search result and I read through their reviews. And sure enough, I think I've got a slide displaying, you'll see 2 reviews were left for that company, the one that's at the top of the search results, literally mentioning the word indoor. That's not a coincidence. In fact, if you haven't done this, you can now on your phone search restaurants with drive-throughs near me. And now Google doesn't have just the standard fast food chains, but all those random restaurants that people say the drive-through experience was awesome, they're showing up. All the people open now, COVID precautions, like I can get very specific for what I'm searching for. In fact, I don't think we're far away from a future where not just the businesses are reviewed, but every single product you offer is reviewed on a specific scale. Because that's what I want as a consumer. I don't just want your business, I want a specific service. If I'm hiring a pest control company to come and do specific termite spray, I want to know if the company's good at that service, not just whether or not they're a good company in general. This is really taking over the landscape, and it's easy for you to control. If you do this well, the results are huge. In fact, we've got a slide here with all of our customer data. We ran a random pulse, and just for insight on this, we work with about 50,000 businesses across the US. We are a Google company, so they actually sit on our board and have a financial stake in Podium and what we do. And so they share a lot of this data with us. Exactly what are the Google actions happening? How many people are clicking on that phone call button? How many people are clicking on the website button? We took an average poll of every single customer of ours that had at least 3 months of data before and after using our reputation tool. The average customer more than doubled their phone calls and web traffic. That's huge. If you want to increase your business and get people calling you, fix your reviews and do it right away. It's the single best return today as far as SEO dollars spent, and it sticks. It's not like you spend money on a billboard and then when that billboard comes down, it's gone. You fix this today and get ahead of the game, you're way ahead for years. I think the last point, and kind of moving away from this is really, again, hopefully us as businesses are focusing on what's happening in the change. It takes, for us, it takes taking that business hat off and putting on the consumer hat. We are all Google users. As much as Google doesn't care about us as a business and they don't tell us about all the updates that they're doing, they don't care to because they've already got us locked in as consumers. I use Google every day, and most of you do too. Look at how you look online from that consumer lens, and it will reshape the way that you start to think about what's important for your business standing. It will also show you new opportunities like this one. If you're already fixing your listing, you're already setting yourself up for success, hopefully you've turned on Google Click to Chat. And again, I hint at this because this is a software that's been around since 2017, yet I bet 9 out of the 10 of people on this phone have never even seen this button option. It's an easy update. It goes in line with where the internet's happening. And again, it's going to take just a little bit of work up front. Listings management, reputation management, it does need to be proactive, but it just does need to be that mental decision and that mental shift to start going after it and be proactive on it. Because the grass work, like Google messaged, 5 minutes and you guys could turn this on for your business. It really is that fast. Don't wait on it. That's really, most of what I wanted to cover. If there are people out there that have questions, if there's anybody interested in, talking with us more a little bit on our side on how we help with reputation management, as well as everything else we do as a company, text or call me. This is my email as well. Shoot me a line. This is a very important piece that we want to make sure every one of you have the ammunition, the tools, and the power, and really the capabilities to be successful with. It's a fascinating world to be great at. You'll see huge dividends from making sure that you're the number one in town, and it's a place that we want to help you with. But Matt, I appreciate you letting us come on today. Hopefully this was somewhat in line with what you guys have been sharing already on some of these past webinars. I think this talk about SEO, digital marketing, and then moving forward with where you guys are going on these series of that consumer experience, that customer convenience, it's so important today, and it's something that we need to all be really, really aware of.
Yeah, so totally, David, and we very much appreciate you joining. I think as I was listening to you speak, one of the things that is a common thread we've been hearing throughout all of our presentations over the last, month and a half or so, definitely is still very much in line here. And I just want to kind of double down on that and also just see if you have any additional insight. But, we talk so much about how, when you think about what Google wants for its customers, it is just to create a positive experience for whatever they're looking to do. Because if they are able to do that, then you will use Google more. And so the reason that's important to just think about is we should be thinking about the way that we use Google and provide services to our customers in the same way. Generally speaking, if we're providing a valuable experience for customers and we're meeting them where they need to be met or solving their needs, you're probably doing the right things to be able to appear highly in SEO and in PPC and in this case, listings management, but also it ultimately comes down to your reputation. And so one thing you mentioned in particular, David, is, very eye-opening. You showed this mobile search result where there's, the business information, just the nitty-gritty of what they need if they want to decide to move with you. But there was really only 2 ways of driving your reputation with them. And that is your imagery, which you have full control of what images you want to upload. But most importantly is this concept of reviews. And to your point, if those reviews are positive and they're descriptive of all of the things that you're doing to differentiate yourself, then you're naturally going to get this flywheel effect where you start ranking with those search results of things that people care about and what they start seeing. And so it all just boils down to providing that, positive customer experience. Is that kind of a fair way of how you look at that as well?
Oh, I agree fully. Because again, like the online conversation's happening. And if we're providing a good experience, well, we're probably already winning in that online reputation. Our reputation exceeds us for a reason. We do want to try to take control, but it's no different than what we were doing 10, 20 years ago. Word of mouth drives revenue. We all know that. And we win word of mouth by providing good consumer experience. So providing that consumer experience in a positive way will still win us that word of mouth traffic. It's just what is the 2020 technological evolution of word of mouth traffic? And that is these listings, that is these SEO points, that is these reviews. It's something I think you hit it right on the head. Customer experience should always be first. Because if you don't have that, you might still try to take control of your experience and end up with a 4-star rated business. Get your 5-star service there and then facilitate this and ensure every single customer gets online and talks about that 5-star experience you provided.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, David. Yeah, and we did have some questions that came in throughout. We are a little bit over time, so in the interest of just respecting everyone's time, we're not going to go through Q&A today, but David, I will be working with you outside of this webinar to be able to get some of these questions answered. So for the folks that submitted them, we very much appreciate it. If you keep an eye on your email, we'll be in touch with you guys shortly to be able to kind of walk you through some of the things that came up in today's conversation. So, but David, thank you so much for joining us today. I definitely think I speak for everyone in the audience, and I've literally seen multiple people send some comments in particular about your presentation being incredibly informative. So thanks for joining us, and appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Very good. So guys, just a couple more things before we let you guys go. As a reminder, in 2 weeks, we're going to be hosting another conversation on optimizing your marketing spend. It'll be our last one for this imperative. And specifically, we're going to be going back to an old format that we received a lot of positive feedback from you guys on, and that operator roundtable. And so we're going to be discussing how these operators are adjusting their marketing strategies, not only for COVID-19, but more importantly, what they're doing to come out on the other side of this whole health crisis stronger than before. So keep an email out for that. And then lastly, I did want to talk at Storable. Our goal is to equip our customers with the tools that they need to run their business successfully. And so with that in mind, we've developed some of these best-in-class solutions for your digital marketing needs. And so I did want to talk about in particular the products and services we offer that are relevant to today's conversation. And so one is our Storable Websites product, which is created to make your self-storage website design, SEO, transaction management, simpler than ever before. But also, while incredibly effective on its own, we also offer, they're made even more powerful, I should say, by our digital marketing services. And as we discussed today, local listings in particular have a really big impact on your search rankings. And so this is one of the services we offer. And you can rest easy knowing that your listings management service is working towards, maximizing your domain authority, and then making sure that your business is represented accurately and effectively where it can be found online. We also offer SEO and PPC management. So if you want to review those webinars we've done historically, you can learn a little bit more about what we do in that space for you. But if you do want to learn more about that, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@storable.com, and we're glad to have a conversation about what that might look like for your business in particular. But that does conclude today's webinar. So if you guys do have any additional questions that come up throughout the week, again, if you submitted them today, I've already got those logged. We'll be touching base with you shortly. But if anything else comes up, send us an email at webinars@storable.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But to all of you guys out there, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our operator roundtable on marketing strategies changing in the face of the health crisis. But just want to thank you guys for attending and hope everyone has a great day.